It's 2:22 now. 2:22. Playing Grand Theft Auto. Alright, guys. 2:43 so far. It'd be creepy if we saw something staring out this window.
You had the window and saw my reflection. I thought it was somebody staring at me. You scared me. I see that big ass motherfucker.
Yeah.
You guys see
that would be some scary shit. Alright, guys, so this video we are not supposed to be watching at 3 a.m., but we are going to watch it because.
And they only like killed 2.
Damn. Oh shit. It is 3 a.m. Guys. 3 a.m. on October.
Hello?
And it's time to watch that video.
Since the late 90s, black-eyed children have been an essential component of paranormal folklore. Those who report encounters with them often feel that the children were somehow supernatural and extremely dangerous, though they could not explain why. In this video, we count down 5 terrifying encounters with black-eyed children.
Alright. 5 encounters with black-eyed children. What the fuck could possibly go wrong here? Black-eyed children, because that's normal. Alright. Y'all tell me what y'all think about the response to some of these people. Listen to this.
One night, a man was dozing in the spare bed in his infant daughter's room when he heard a strange bump outside the house. Initially, the man thought nothing of it, believing it to be the family cat, but the thumps continued. The man checked the porch, but the cat was nowhere to be found. He then walked into the kitchen and found 2 figures loitering outside his front door. They knocked on the door. Both were boys around 10 or 11 and gave off a mouldy odour. "May we use your telegraph?" one of the boys said. To his horror, the man realised both boys had eyes that were completely black.
Can we use your telegraph? We have not used that term for a cell phone since the 1800s, I think. And these are kids that smell like mold. May we use your telegraph? Continue.
Ignoring the old remark about the telegraph, the man told the boy he didn't have service in his house and shut the door. As the man slowly made his way back to his daughter's room, the 2 boys thumped on the walls. The man clutched his daughter to his chest as the boys constantly knocked against the window. Their eerie eyes and awful persistence made the man too scared to fall asleep. He remained crouched on the floor of the room for several hours, fighting to ignore the knocks that occurred every couple of minutes. The moment his wife's alarm clock went off, however, the knocking ceased, and the black-eyed children were nowhere to be seen. This story was sent to me by a lady called Sandy. 10 years ago, she was living in Phoenixville. It was a beautiful apartment with a good-sized yard and a beautiful Japanese maple tree in it. Back then, it wasn't uncommon for kids to come and ask to play in the yard and climb the tree. Sandy was also a babysitter, so she knew most of the kids in the neighborhood. It was the end of June and about 4:30 when she heard a knock at the door. Looking out the kitchen window, she saw a child, and it sounded like they were asking to climb the tree. The door was open, but the screen door was shut. He knocked 3 or 4 more times before Sandy could get there. The boy was wearing a grey hoodie with the hood up. The first thing she said was, "It's a little hot for a hoodie, don't you think?" His silence made her feel nervous, so she said, "If you're here to play on the tree, go ahead." As she turned around, he coldly said, "No. I want to come inside. I need to use the bathroom." Sandy refused the kid entry. He took a step closer and said again, "I need to come inside. I need to use the bathroom." It was at this point she started to feel chills down her spine. He then said, "Don't close that door. Let me in." After telling him to go home, the boy lifted up the hood. He had black short hair, very pale skin, and pitch black eyes. Sandy slammed the door as quickly as she could. The boy started to bang the door for a few minutes until she threatened to call the police. Sandy began having nightmares which lasted for a few years. The dreams were always the same. Her standing in a park and the boy asking, "Why didn't you let me in?" before turning and looking at her. This affected Sandy so much that she was scared to leave her apartment. When she did, she felt like she was being watched. After the terrifying experience, no children were allowed in her yard. The nightmare stopped when she moved, along with the fear of being watched. Sandy never saw the kid again. On the 17th of March 2008, a 12-year-old boy had a bone-chilling experience in an outlet parking lot. While waiting in his mother's truck for his mother to finish getting a haircut, he saw a boy walking across the parking lot. Thinking it was a friend from school, the boy banged on the window until the other boy turned around. Realizing
This dumbass went and got his attention. This dumbass went to the black-eyed motherfucker and said, must be a friend. And basically got his attention. He
screwed up.
was not his friend, the boy in the truck watched in confusion as the strange kid walked up and stared through the window. The boy caught one glance at the other boy's solid black eyes and knew he was staring into the face of evil. You must let me in, the black-eyed boy demanded. Panicked, the boy in the car crouched under the glove compartment.
I do.
After several minutes, the black-eyed boy finally disappeared. When the boy's mother returned to the truck, she informed her son that the black-eyed child had come into the salon demanding the keys to her vehicle. Thankfully, the boy's mother did not give in.
Thankfully. What do you mean thankfully? I hope like she wouldn't ever have given into a black-eyed, some kid with black eyes, just straight black. You see this part is white? No, all of it is black. Just comes up, hey, let me see them car keys. I know your son.
Called him because then it forced him to go over there and force his way into that car. And what if she did?
What if he was one of those people that greeted his friends just by automatically opening the door? What if he even just rolled down the window?
No, but what if she gave him the keys? What would he have done to that kid? Would he have drove off, or would she have came back to the car and he wasn't there, or what would have happened?
I think he'd have took the car and the kid.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that just gives me chills.
Boom gang, a lot of gang shit.
In 2010, a man encountered two black-eyed teenagers outside his place of work. It was an ordinary July night in Ohio, and the man was in the middle of a night shift. Craving a cigarette, he stepped outside the building and noticed two teenage boys across the street. As he smoked, he realized the boys were staring at him. He returned to the safety of his cubicle and tried to refocus on his work, only to see through the security cameras that the boys had appeared in front of his building, motioning for him to come outside. Fed up, the man went to the door, contemplating whether or not he should call the police. As if they read his mind, the boys insisted that such an action was unnecessary. All they needed was to use a phone. The man refused. He watched in terror as one of the boys continued to stare up at the security camera, while the other ventured to the back of the building, watching the camera as though they could see.
Now think about that. One staring at you, straight into the camera, looking straight into your soul, looking at the camera, and one just runs away. You don't want to take off your eyes off that one, but then you're got this feeling like the other one could be right behind you, you know? That's just, that just creeps me out right there.
What the man was doing. With frayed nerves, he contacted the police, watching the teenagers on the video feed the entire time. When the officer arrived on the scene, he could not locate the teenagers anywhere, despite the fact the man never tore his eyes away from the video feed. Pretty much all of these stories end with the individual closing the door on these black-eyed children, but in this story a couple let them inside. I'll be reading this story as it was posted.
Now I'm willing to bet you, and this is to all you motherfucking white people out there, including myself, that these motherfuckers are white. I'm just saying, I know I wouldn't do it. The only people that would do some shit like that is some white people. They don't care how sketched out you look. The poor child, maybe I should take care of him. Sometimes it's okay not to help black-eyed children.
I live just outside of a rural town in Vermont. It's a tight-knit community where everyone knows one another, and people don't lock their doors at night. There has never been any need to. A little over a year ago, I woke up because I heard a loud banging on my front door. At the time, my husband and
Proof
I
that
lived
they're
in a
white.
small
Never
home
need
on
to
a
lock
dirt
the
road.
doors.
It was the middle of a snowstorm and the nearby hills get very slippery in the snow, so I thought that someone might have been in an accident and broken down. It's happened before. When I looked out the window, I could see that our motion spotlight was on. I could see that there were footprints in the snow that had come from our road and into our driveway, but there was no car anywhere. The snow was still covering the road and no one had driven on it for at least a couple of hours. Our front door was obscured from the window, but I could see that someone was standing there. I wasn't sure what to think, so I woke my husband up just to feel safer. While I was telling him what was going on, the banging on the door started again, and my husband went to answer it while I was stood in the hallway. When he opened the door, there were two children standing in the snow looking toward the ground. They were a boy and a girl and could not have been any more than 8 years old. They were dressed strangely and had odd haircuts. The girl's hair was very long and straight, and the boy had a dated haircut that looked almost like a bowl cut. They weren't dressed for winter. Thinking back on it, I know my normal reaction to seeing children in a snowstorm would have been to rush them inside and bundle them up with some blankets and hot cocoa, but that's not how this felt. The children were very unnerving. They would not make eye contact, and when my husband asked if everything was okay, they asked if they could come in.
I don't know what the fuck was going through their head at this point to where after all these signs they still want to let these children in after saying that they're not really feeling the we should help them vibe. But they still help them.
Because they're white.
Because they're stupid.
Yeah.
My husband looked at me and asked what to do. I then asked the kids where their parents were. They'll be here soon is all they said. It was around 2 o'clock in the morning at this point, so the only reasonable thought in my head was there must have been an accident or these kids got lost. As much as my instincts told me not to bring them inside, I did anyway. I went into the kitchen to make them some hot cocoa while my husband took them into the living room. While I was fixing the kettle, I could hear my husband talking to the kids. He was asking them if they were okay, where they came from, how far they walked, if their parents' car was broken down, things like that. But they always answered, our parents will be here soon. They weren't afraid to be in a stranger's home at all.
Why turn around like there's something
I started to
happening?
notice that our cats were all hiding except from the one who was in the kitchen with me.
Got that creepy vibe.
Normally our cats are very curious and friendly,
Just watching this
and we have to be careful that they
makes
don't
it
run out
feel
the door when
like
we
they
leave.
form around you.
This time none of them even
Once
tried
you
to see
start to
who was
know
here,
about
which I
this.
thought was very strange. All of the hair
I'm not
on the
gonna
cat's
lie,
neck
after
was
all this
standing
started
up,
happening, I would have just
and his
like
tail
left
was
my
puffed up
house.
while he looked in the living room.
I would have left those people there and I would have left
When I
my
bent down
house.
to
I would have
pet him
never
to see
went
what
back to
was
that
wrong, he
house.
hissed and
I
started
don't care if my
growling,
children are
and
there.
backed up until he hid himself under the kitchen
I'm not
island.
going back to that house.
I've never seen him do that before.
Ever.
When I walked back into the living room, the kids were sitting on the couch as still as can be, but my husband was holding his head in his hands. I asked him what was wrong and he said he just felt very dizzy all of a sudden. I turned back to the children to give them their cocoa, but when they looked at me I gasped. It took everything inside of me not to drop the mugs and run away. When they looked at me, their eyes were completely black. When they saw that I was scared, they stood up and asked if they could use the bathroom. I tried to be as composed as I could be and showed them down the hall.
Look, they felt it. How'd they know she was scared? Like, they just like knew all of a sudden, and then they probably had to go to the restroom and go and talk about this lady and how she knows. And that's when probably stuff is gonna go even worse than but it may go even more.
They went into the bathroom together and I hurried back to my husband to ask him if he'd seen their eyes. He said he'd seen them too, and said that it looked like his brother's eyes after a car accident. We were in the middle of talking about whose children they could be when my husband's nose started to bleed. He'd never had a nosebleed as long as I've known him. I just knew inside myself that this had something to do with the kids. I started crying while I ran to get my husband some tissues. That's when the power went out. I heard my husband yell my name from the living room, and as I started to walk back through the hallway, I stopped dead in my tracks. The two children were standing there at the end of the hallway. They weren't moving, and I've never been so scared in my whole life. They just stood there in the dark. After what felt like forever, the boy said, "Our parents are here," and they walked to the door, opened it, and walked out, leaving it wide open. My husband jumped up to close it. We looked out the window and saw two men standing by a black car at the end of our driveway. The men looked like they were wearing black-coloured suits and were very tall, at least 6 feet. When my husband waved at them, they just stared at us, got into the car and drove off. Our power came on about half an hour later, but nothing was the same after that. Over the next few months, 3 of our cats went missing. We can only assume that they ran away somewhere and never came back. But the worst thing was coming home to find one of the cats in a puddle of blood on the living room floor. He looked like he'd been vomiting blood. After my husband's nose piece became a regular occurrence, we went to see the doctor. My husband was diagnosed with an aggressive skin cancer. When the doctor asked us if he used tanning beds, we both thought he was joking. But apparently this kind of melanoma is linked to overuse of indoor tanning. The doctors think he'll recover, but don't understand how he got it so bad so quickly. My husband has never worked an outdoor job, and spends relatively little time in the sun. Since we let the black-eyed kids inside our home, I've also suffered from regular dizzy spells and nosebleeds on a regular basis. I've had other issues which I won't mention here, but trust me when I say I am suddenly in the worst condition of my life, and no one can do anything about it. I know that all of this is because I let the black-eyed children into my home.
This is the only
We've
story
told
they
everyone we
have
could about the
ever
strange
letting
kids
the
that showed up
black-eyed
that
children
night,
in their home.
but no one else saw them, and some laughed at how scared we
And
were.
if there's other
But
I
we
would
know
like
what we
to
saw.
know it, you can leave your
I
comments
wish my
in
husband had never opened the door.
the video below.
Now the story ends with the individual warning others about the black-eyed kids.
Yeah, don't let
Verified.
black-eyed children in your house.
Okay, that's it, guys. That's the video that will give you chills. Try to go to sleep before 12. Alright, guys. Have a good one. Subscribe for more.